William Byron is easily the man to beat. Okay, I said the obvious, but to a degree, I think a lot of people still aren't giving him the credit he deserves. A lot of people I see will kind of discount the success that he's had. Oh, it's the cars, or oh, it's the crew chief, or oh, it's just dumb luck. And, well, I just don't think so. I mean, he just won Martinsville, which, again, would be something that I think would be impressive for most drivers in most eras if it wasn't for the next-gen car. Instead, between the way the race overall played out and also the fact that it was a broadcast Hendrick Glaze fest, well, people kind of are just moving on from it or not really too happy with it unless you're a Hendrick fan. But this was a 1-2-3 Hendrick finish at their best track in Martinsville, over Kyle Larson, over Chase Elliott. And this was his 11th win in the next-gen era. That tops the list easily. He was the only one who could pass at will, and something overall to look at too is he's still a pretty young driver. He is 26 years old. Let's look a little bit more at what Byron's done, because I think it needs highlighted, and even for someone like me who has been a skeptic in the past, at this point, I feel like you have to kind of be sold. So, in the next-gen era, per Racing Reference, we have been 80 points races in. In that time, William Byron has 11 wins, 23 top 5s, 36 top 10s, has led nearly 2,000 laps, and averages a finish of 13th. Also, his points finishes are 6th and 3rd, and he currently sits 7th in the standings, but with 3 wins, he pretty much tops every list when it comes to playoffs. But I want to look at a more specific window in this time, because the regular season for him in 2022, the first full year with the next-gen car, was definitely a feeling out period, and he really flipped a switch starting with the playoffs in 2022, where he was routinely in the top 10 and never finished lower than 16th. So, in the last 54 starts, William Byron has 9 wins, 19 top 5s, 31 top 10s, has led 1,300 laps, and averages a 10th place finish. And with how close everything is, remember how much they talk about parity in this sport. That is amazing. I don't think we're ever going to see numbers again the way that Jeff Gordon had it back in the 90s, or even Jimmy Johnson had it, and maybe we can even say 2021 for Kyle Larson. I really don't think we're going to consistently see numbers like that again. So, in a 54 race span, which basically is 1.5 seasons, to have 9 wins, to have 31 top 5s, to average a 10th place finish in that long amount of time should be recognized as just how amazing William Byron's performance has been. And you add to that, well, basically that Byron is getting better the further on into his career he gets. And that can be seen in his seasons as well. Look at his last 2 playoff performances. In 2022, he finished 8th, 6th, 3rd, 7th, 12th, 16th, 13th, 12th, 7th, 6th, an average of a 9th place finish. Had he basically had the playoff points and the right positioning, he easily would have been in the Final 4. Look at last year. 4th, 15th, 9th win, 2nd, 2nd, 7th, 4th, 13th, 4th. A 6.1 average. I know I'm listing off a lot of numbers and it sounds like I'm just reading them at this point, but the point of it is this. He had an excellent 2022 playoffs. He easily topped that in 2023, and he has not finished below 16th in the playoffs since 2021, back in the Gen 6 era. And let's look at his wins, the high points of what he has done in the next-gen era. In 2022, he won 2 races, Atlanta and Martinsville. He led a ton of them, and people would basically be able to say, well, he dominates races. But when push comes to shove, he wouldn't be able to battle up front and get him away or put himself in position. He just dominates them. Well, last year he won 6 races. And of those 6 races, 3 of which he led less than 20 laps. Those were Darlington, Atlanta, and Texas. Texas, where he battled and beat Bubba Wallace, the driver who dominated the day. Darlington, he was in the right place, I will admit that, but he was fast enough to stay up there and probably had the first or second best car of the day. And Atlanta, I'll give you that. It was a rain-shortened race. He kind of lucked into that one, but again, still up front. But you look at the other races he won last year. An intermediate with Las Vegas dominated the day. A flat, shorter track in Phoenix. He beat straight up Kyle Larson. And he won with no stage yellows, only one caution at the day for Watkins Glen last year. Again, pretty good. Look at this year. He's got a super speedway win. I'll give you that with a 500. It was a bit of a wreck fest at the end, and you could even argue, I think, and rightfully so, that he caused some of those. But at COTA, dominated the day. He was the man to beat at one of the biggest skill-based tracks, and while he didn't have the best car at the end, he had done just enough, and his team had done just enough to keep him ahead of Christopher Bell at the end. And Martinsville, well, it's a short track, and again, we have the issues there, but he led 88 laps, and it was a huge moment as well, just as his Texas win was for Hendrick Motorsports' 300th win, with a 40th year anniversary of Hendrick being really celebrated, if you haven't heard. And I think a lot of the success, too, can be attributed to the chemistry of the crew chief. And when you look at Rudy Fugle, his current crew chief, he has helped him all the way back to the Truck Series days. He helped Byron win 7 of 23 truck races at the age of 18 in 2016, and the obvious chemistry has improved as Byron has gotten older, as we talked about before. The scary part is that Byron isn't an old driver. He is only 26. Drivers only improve more into their early and mid-30s and can stay good into their early to mid-40s. What I'm trying to say is that William Byron has a huge window here, not only to win championships, but to etch his name in the record books when it comes to the all-time wins list, when it comes to laps led, top 10s, whatever you may, William Byron will be in contention to either break or set all of these records. And to me, the comp that I see with Byron, at least in success, not as a driver, but in success as a driver, is an early Joey Logano. If you remember, Logano didn't start out great. He was a phenom, and people were literally calling him the best thing since sliced bread. And while Byron didn't have that moniker put on him, he was seen as the heir apparent for Hendrick Motorsports, that young driver that would fly up through the ranks and dominate early. And it took a while. I'll admit, I wasn't a believer heading into last year. I thought that playoff run in 2022 was a fluke. And I erroneously said he wouldn't make the playoffs because I didn't see the consistency. He proved me wrong, and I'm a believer at this point. And I would say even that Byron and Larson are 1A and 1B at Hendrick. And since the Next Gen era started, I'm heavily leaning towards Byron being the one having the edge of just solely being number one if he keeps up at this pace. And that's saying something, because Kyle Larson, while not being 2021 Kyle Larson with this new car, he is still an elite driver and probably second or third best in the series. So with that, I want to pass this on to you. What do you think of William Byron? Is he the man to beat, or are we overblowing this? Has he gotten lucky? What do you think of him? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're at it, leave a like on this video, share this video, and subscribe to this channel for more great NASCAR content. Thank you so much to all my channel members for your continued support, and until next time, have a good one.